I'm responsible for overseeing the design, delivery for orientation, training, and educational events for our allied health staff. I am also ProSci certified in change management. Nothing to disclose this morning. This is my goals, objectives for the day. I want to begin by looking at the characteristics and maybe some of the challenges associated with the 5 different generations in the workforce. I hope I'll stimulate some curiosity and respect for those in other generations. And finally, I want to talk about some strategies that we can use not only to prepare ourselves, but our colleagues and coworkers, because change is constantly happening. Now, my intent is not to promote stereotypes of each of the generations, saying that this generation fits into a predictable set of attributes. Rather, I'd like to share what I've learned about some of the unique attributes of each generation, and I'm going to ask you to share your perspective through the chat. Rather than having an exclusive perspective that my generation is the best, I invite you to be inclusive and see the value of each generation in the workforce. You know, for most of my career, the baby boomers were the largest generation in the workforce, but that's changing. Now it's the millennials. The rules of authority have also been changing. For most of my career, it's been very hierarchical, top down. And today it's becoming more collaborative in the decision making. George Orwell said, every generation imagines itself to be more intelligent than the one that went before it and wiser than the one that comes after it. I have to admit, I've been caught myself feeling that way. As I watch more and more of my colleagues retire, I sometimes miss working with somebody that's kind of my own age. And that's a natural response. And it's part of our inherent unconscious bias. I want to take a moment to explain what unconscious bias is because it affects how we interact with others. Our brain gets so much information and sensory overload, it wouldn't allow us to function if it spent all that time inputting all that data. So it has to find a shortcut. And it fills in the gaps of what we know with assumptions. And those assumptions are based on our background, our culture, and our past personal experiences. So for our brain and for us as human beings to survive, we have learned to quickly categorize information and process it. Is this a threat or is this a friend? It allows us to make really quick decisions. And let's admit, sometimes it's easier than spending that time and effort to actually get to know someone. Give you a quick example. I want to work with you because you look like me, or you do some things that are similar to what I do. We have same interests. I don't want to work with you because you look different than me. You talk differently than I do. And I just don't see how you're going to fit with my group. You know, we all do it. Again, it's how our primitive brains are hardwired to help us survive. We don't tolerate the ambiguous very well. Because of that goal to survive, we go with our gut, that first impression, that first instinct. And I think the other hard thing for me to accept was, even though I think I'm objective, I really don't see the world and things that are happening around me from an objective lens. Probably not most of the time. We don't know everyone's life history or what's currently going on with them. So I hope by sharing a little bit today about our own perspectives, we can learn a little something about each of the generations and maybe fill in some of those gaps that we have. There's currently 5 generations in the workforce, but before I share what I've learned about the struggles and maybe some of the general traits of each generation, I'd like to get a sense of our audience today. So in the chat, I want you to do 2 things. First of all, identify which generation you identify with, and then add a short phrase, or maybe it's just a word that describes your generation for us. And you'll note that I said generation you identify with, because you may have been born, based on your birthday in a certain generation, but you really relate to the next generation or the one before. Or perhaps you were born on the cusp of two different generations. So go ahead, put in the chat. We've got Daniel says, looks like he's maybe on the cusp between Gen X and Gen Y. And Liberty says that Gen X's are committed and loyal. That's a great word. Got some X's here. Dedicated and loyal. Hey, shout out to Glenn, another baby boomer. Gen X's are dedicated, according to Tracy. Thank you. And we've got some Gen X millennial mixes. Gen X's are hard workers. Thank you, Daniel. So are baby boomers, according to Sandy. I guess I'd have to agree. I think we are. Reliable. Andy says Gen X's are reliable. Yeah. I think we're seeing all of our generations, and I think I'd have to agree. We all are hardworking, even though we're different. Strong work ethic. Yeah. Committed to your work. Yeah. Thank you. Driven and go-getters from Jim. Thank you. And great work ethics. So I think we have, interestingly, I was looking for contrast, but I'm happy to see that we're good, hardworking people across all the generations. We don't have any slackers in the group. I love that. Flexible for Gen Y. Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. All right. Another baby boomer that says we're hardworking. Yes, I think so too. Well, let's take a quick look at some of the things that I found. And you can feel free to disagree if you like. But I'm going to start with the silent generation. These are folks that were born between 1928 and 1945. Their formative years were impacted by multiple wars. World War II was happening when they were infants and small children. They understood firsthand about rationing for food, gasoline, and the recycling of metals, because everybody had to sacrifice for the war effort. As young adults, either they or probably family members were sent to wars, either in Korea or in Vietnam. Not surprisingly, patriotism, loyalty, following rules, and conforming are traits often associated with this generation. And they were named the silent generation for a very strong reason. It was due to McCarthyism, and that's probably before many of our time. Joe McCarthy was a senator, and he was really afraid of communist influences. So he held hearings accusing individuals, often high-profile celebrities, folks like that. He accused them of subversion and treason. And for this reason, this generation didn't feel like it was safe to speak up because of those hearings. The next generation is the baby boomers. We were born between 1946 and 1964. Our formative years were influenced by violence both near and far. We had Vietnam, we had the Cold War with Russia, we had the fallout shelters, the civil rights movement, and we also went through the Kennedy assassination. In contrast, we also had a sense of optimism because the Apollo mission to the moon showed us anything's possible. Woodstock was advertised as 3 days of peace and love, and it had an audience of over 400,000 people. It was a period of increasing affluence because many of those soldiers that were coming home took advantage of government programs for our veterans, such as subsidizing their housing and their education. Housing and education are two of the most important ways that we can gain wealth. And generally, we were optimistic. We thought things were going to get better over time. Gen Xers were born between 1965 and 1980. This is a time of shifting societal values. More women were actively entering the workforce, and divorce rates were increasing. The 1980s were a time of huge layoffs, and key world events included Watergate, AIDS, the Challenger explosion, MTV, and the introduction of home computers and video games. Traits often associated with this generation include being self-reliant, skeptical, independent. They were termed the latchkey kids because they're oftentimes had both parents working or were working, came from families with single parents. So they had a lot less adult supervision than generations previous to that. Millennials. You were born between 1981 and 1997. Significant early life events included the Columbine mass shootings, 9/11, and the financial crisis. That Great Recession resulted in historically high levels of unemployment and higher levels of student loan debt. It's also a time of increased use of the internet and of technology. Traits commonly associated with millennials include your ability to speak up and ask questions. You challenge authority in a way that previously hadn't been done. And your favorite question, I think, is why. You want to understand why. You're creative, you're collaborative, and you highly appreciate that work-life balance. Even though we're all hard workers, you as a generation really brought into that aspect of work-life balance. And our Gen Zs, our latest generation that's just entering the workforce. You were born from 1998, and we don't have an end date yet for this generation. You're more likely to have grown up in diverse family structures, such as a single parent household, a multiracial household, or a home where gender roles were blurred. As a result, you're less impacted than previous generations by differences in race, sexual orientation, or religion. You were born during the tech explosion, which is why you're often called digital natives. You can't imagine life, you didn't know life without technology, which makes you great proactive learners because you'll go out and get the information that you want. In contrast, if you spend too much time on the screen, it can leave you feeling isolated and can delay the development of social skills. You have seen your parents struggle during the financial crisis, which may make you a little more pragmatic. You might value conservative spending and stable jobs. You are very shrewd consumers. Again, you access and research before you buy, and maybe you're even checking in with your social network. You're socially minded. You're independent thinkers, and you recognize your own responsibility in influencing a more equitable future for everyone. So I hope this quick review of some of the significant life events and the general traits of each 5 generations in the workforce today was helpful to you. I think we need to remember that we grew up in different times, different circumstances. So next, I want to take just a couple of minutes to explore what value does each generation bring to the workforce. So I've made a little word doodle here, or word cloud, and I'd like you to take a quick look at it and pick out maybe 2 or 3 characteristics that you would like to see in a member of your team or your work group. So just going to give you about 35 seconds. So take a look. Which qualities would you like to have in your next teammate? Thank you for those thoughts. Now, just wanted to show this again. I had used the traits that we discussed in the previous slides as I went through each of the generations. And now as you look at it, did you pick characteristics from different generations? Or were they all from one? And curious, was it from your generation? Did you pick traits that you have, or did you pick traits that you'd like to see? Often our unconscious bias, again, we want to select people who are like us. I found this exercise for me was very helpful and made me realize, yeah, even the Gen Zs can bring something to the table, or Gen Xs. And if we still have some folks from the silent generation, if they're still working and still productive, they have something of value to add to our team too. You know, they do follow the rules. And some of you had included that loyalty as a strong, important characteristic. So thank you again for your comments. So we spent some time talking about how we're unique and we're different, but I also want us to remember that we've got a lot in common, regardless of our birthdays. We all want work that's meaningful. We want to come to work each day and feel that we're part of the team, that we've got something to add. And we're also looking for opportunities. They shouldn't be limited to the most experienced staff. We want to have a sense of purpose. Are there opportunities for all of us to get involved in some small group activities, some teamwork? You know, there's probably some processes or some activities that happen in the work unit that are maybe a little cumbersome. Can you put a small team together that can look at that and say, how can we make this better? How can we collaborate, come with a solution? We want to feel included. We want to feel we're our part, that we're valued. And I think finally we want, and everyone deserves to be respected, regardless of our age, our backgrounds. We want to feel that we're part of this team. So I hope this exercise helped you reflect on who we are, not only us as an individual and what we bring to the table, but thinking more broadly about the diverse group that we may work with. And maybe you work with a pretty homogeneous group, I don't know. But I hope it's given you a little bit of insight to the value of each generation and the talents that we can bring to a group. And we are more alike than we are different. And if we bring all of our attributes together, I think we can find that we have stronger teams and we can learn from each other and perform at a higher level. So now that I've given you some foundational knowledge about each of the generations, I want to shift our focus, because managing change is something we all have to do. And regardless if we're beginning our career, in the middle of our career, or near the end of our career, we're all in this together. And we're all going to be impacted by change. And I think this past year, going through the pandemic, has given us some resiliency that we can use to our advantage as we face the next change. So an announcement's been made, something's changing. Again, in the chat, put in one word that describes your first reaction. Okay? What comes to mind when you hear the word, it's gonna change? I'm sorry, again. Someone's curious, Emily, thank you. Why? Yes. I hope it works. And what now? Fear. Thank you for being honest about that. Yeah, it is. It can be fearful. Frustrating. Yes. Thank you, Gabrielle. Becky, you're optimistic. I love that. I hope you've had some good past experiences. What can we expect? Ugh, more work. Absolutely. Well, for me, my first reaction is paralyzed. It's like, oh, I'm comfortable. I manage my own workday. I know what's to expect. And now it's going to change. So it's like, uh-oh, I'm a little disrupted. And that's kind of what it is. Which way do I turn? What do I do? I'm a little bit paralyzed. So how we react to a change is dependent upon if we feel comfortable or if we're, as was mentioned in the chat, are we afraid? Me, it's usually that fear reaction rather than that excitement. If I don't feel safe, I feel threatened in some way because it's disrupting my homeostasis or the norms of things, I might respond in a manner that you see on the slide. I might get angry. I'll be fearful. Me personally, I withdraw. I become quiet and I whine. And it's all about me. Those are my I statements. Those are normal reactions. Until we feel safe, we're going to have to work through some of those fears. On the other hand, for those that feel comfortable with change, you might see it as an opportunity. Oh, good. I've been hoping we could change this process. Maybe your past changes, like Becky, maybe they've gone well. I'm assuming that because you're excited. Maybe you're comfortable with ambiguity, with the unknown. And maybe you've got a terrific team. And so, hey, we've all been through COVID. We can get through anything, right? We can draw on those strengths to help us move forward. So change is also from the personal perspective. So today I'm going to be a leader and I'm going to tell you all that for the next 30 days, I want you to write using your non-dominant hand. Okay? That's the change. For me, I'm thinking this shouldn't be very disruptive. No one should get too ruffled. You know how to document. You know where to document. I'm just asking you to use your other hand. You got two. This shouldn't be a big deal. Oh, I know it'll be a little klutzy, but you'll be fine. I'm not the one being asked to change. You are, right? So in the chat, tell me, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it just when somebody's watching? Or are you going to refuse? So go ahead. I'm curious to see what your responses are. Embracing, trying it. Okay. Trying. I love your sense of adventure. You're willing to give it a try. Thank you. I got a couple of folks, Glenn and Emily, you're kind of going, how come? You know, as adults, oh, I like challenges, so I'll try. Thank you. As adults, I think I appreciate very much your willingness. That's great. But I also respect for those folks that are asking why. You know, if you're going to ask people to change their behavior, I think it's only fair that you explain the why behind it. We're adults. We want to understand rather than just have this top down, do it kind of thing. And one thing that I think that's very important for leaders and really as teammates also to understand is that change happens. It's not a today we're here and tomorrow we're there. There's a transition in between that process. So if this is how we're doing the process today, we have to go through that transition before we get to the new process. And I like to use the analogy of the caterpillar who becomes a butterfly. So one day the caterpillar is crawling around on that milkweed, having a snack. They don't wake up the next morning as a butterfly. They have to go through the transition. And we don't know what it's like to go through that transition, if it's painful or scary or if it feels normal, but things happen and there are differences until they come out the other side as that butterfly. For many of us, we're kind of happy where we are. We like homeostasis. We like things the status quo. And that uncertainty makes us a little anxious, makes us uncomfortable. But if we want to get to the change, to that something new, we're going to have to give up that old way of thinking and doing to get to that new state. The other important thing that I learned about change is that it's not just one change. I asked for one thing. I want you to use your non-dominant hand, be that right, left, depending on if you're left-handed or right-handed. But what I'm asking is every single staff member. So for me, it looks like one thing, one change. But let's say I have a staff of 40 employees. I'm asking 40 people to change their behavior. No wonder it gets a little bumpy, because each one of you has to go through that transition period to get to the other side. Some might be ambidextrous and it's like no big deal. And for some of us, it might be a significant challenge. And some of you may just go, I'm not even going to do it. And here's the risk. If we don't manage this change process well, we're going to lose people either during the transition or after we've made that change to the new process. So what I want to do next is share a process that you can follow to help not only yourself, but help your teammates get ready for change. Oh, before I do, I guess I want to talk just briefly about what's the big deal. It'll happen sooner or later. It might be a little bumpy, but we'll get there. Well, the reality is, in many cases, and I've been working long enough to go through many changes myself, sometimes those changes didn't go through. And I reflect back on the time and the energy and the negativity that was going on in the workplace because some people were actively speaking out and saying, no, we're not going to do it. And some were more complaining during breaks and that passive resistance or arguing. Sometimes people weren't showing up for work as kind of a sign of resistance. And in some cases, you sort of changed the process, but not completely because people were finding workarounds or just plain refusing to do it. And now you've got two camps, us versus them. We're doing it the new way, we're doing it the old way. And through that conflict, it's really eroding the relationships, it's impacting your productivity, and it really sets kind of a negative stage for any future improvements. Maybe the whole thing's going to get scrapped, and then you won't see the improvements that you'd hoped for. So why do you think people resist change? Why don't they want to change? And there's really three big reasons why they don't want to change. The first one is about communication. Don't like to be surprised. In some cases, you don't hear about it until it's ready. Well, they're not going to like this change. It's going to be controversial. So let's just tell them at Friday at noon and we'll implement Monday. So they won't have much time to get upset about it. Ew, that's not the best way. When you're anticipating a change, you should be communicating as soon as you know something's going to change, even if it's going to be 30 or 60 or a year from now. And then keep communicating along the way so that people know what's going on and include, everybody that's going to be affected by that change. So it's not a one and done, it's an ongoing thing, and making sure people know what's the situation. Then the second reason they don't want to change is because they can't do it. Training is rushed, or it's poorly designed, or it's just not long enough to allow people to get comfortable with that new process. I've got a half a day to learn this new process and it starts on Monday. I may not have the ability to process that information and practice and be ready to go in time. I'm willing, but I just, I'm not ready. And the final reason is that they're afraid. For some of us, we're afraid of looking stupid. Maybe learning a new routine takes a lot of effort. I have to really think about it. If it's technology involved, some of us are not tech natives and it's not intuitive for us. So it's like, oh, I hate to ask these questions again and again. I look silly. And for some of us, we just don't like the disruption from our normal routine. For some, it might threaten our status. I used to be the expert, and now you're doing it differently. And, I won't be seen as kind of the person that knows what to do and the big troubleshooter. I can't put my cape on and help fix it because now we're going to a new electronic system. So people resist change if they don't know, they don't have the skills, and they're resisting because they feel that they're losing something. So here is a framework that we can use to get people ready for change. Jeffrey Hyatt published a book, ADKAR, A Model for Change in Business, Government, and Our Community, back in 2006. He's associated with the organization ProSci, and they have done decades worth of research of Fortune 100 companies that manage change. And through that research, they've come up with this model. And you may not even realize it, but you've probably been exposed to ADKAR, which is an acronym for the awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement, excuse me. Think about a time when you went to a hotel and they have that little card either at the bedside or maybe in the bathroom that talks about reusing the towels. And they start out by talking about this hotel uses how many gallons of water, or we want to save the environment or save energy, something like that. So they're raising your awareness and desire. Then they give the knowledge. They tell you, if you want to reuse your towel, put it on the rack. If you want a new towel, throw it on the floor. And that reinforcement, when you come back to the room, the towels are all set and ready to go. Okay, so that's ADKAR. That's the model that we're going to be talking about. And it needs to happen in that full sequence. You don't jump in at the middle with knowledge and ability. And that's sometimes why changes don't go well. Nothing gets said until here's the new training module. Watch this and we'll be changing the process, on Tuesday. You start with the awareness, you build the desire, then you provide the knowledge and ability, and finally reinforcements. So let's break it down just a little bit. The first step is awareness. Again, think back in your own experience. Has there ever been that surprise change? Maybe you came back from vacation or it's a task you don't do often and all of a sudden it's like, well, when did they change that? And again, the initial reaction could be anger or fear or I'm not going to do it. I wasn't consulted on this. What's going on? So as I stated earlier, I think it's very, very important. Even if you know it's not going to be popular, tell people as soon as you know that change is coming. It allows them some time to get ready for the change and to go through the steps of ADKAR. Because we have to remember that people will tend to resist change as just a normal reaction. They'll live with their workarounds and their clumsy kind of process just because it's familiar. So if you're in a leadership role, acknowledging that resistance to change is normal, that it should be expected, and you need to work through that process. So thinking about awareness, what do you think is important? Let's say that you are the leader and you're going to announce a change. What's important that you share with your staff? Go ahead and put in the chat. What do you think is important to share about whatever change is coming up? Maybe you've got one that is coming up. What do you think is important to tell your staff? Oh, thank you. Gabrielle says it's the why. So same thing with Mina. And yes, the reason for the change. The training schedule. Thank you, Rochelle. Andy again agrees with that why and the where. The when from Sharon. Yeah. Lots of whys and wins. Absolutely. And I agree with you. Why? And oftentimes there's a business reason for things that doesn't always get communicated. So be transparent. What's the business reason? Is this in response to a patient event? Is this a regulatory change? Is this an opportunity for the organization? Why do this differently? And then it's the who. Who's going to be impacted by this? Is it everybody on the team or is it just a certain group? And also who makes the decisions? That's important so I know who to ask questions from. And it's also important that I understand if this is an institutional change, I probably won't have as much influence if it's a work unit change. I can, easily talk directly to my supervisor and maybe influence things that are going on. But if this is something being standardized across the organization, I probably won't have as much influence, but I can still ask questions. And then the what's changing and the when. Really, do we have to do it now? We're kind of, we've been through a really rough past year. Can this wait a little longer? Is there any room for negotiation? So if you're in a leadership role, it might be nice to have what I call an elevator speech, so that as I'm communicating what's going on and where we are in this change process, I have the key information. So whatever the project is And the purpose is part of that why. And then where are we now? What do I know so far? I may not know everything, but what do I know now? And then tailoring it to my audience, because I might be telling this information to different people, but I want to be consistent in that message and making sure people know what's going on and that they have an opportunity to ask some questions. And as part of that purpose, I also want to make clear to my employees what's in it for them. You know, it's natural as human beings when we're asked to do something different. Why should I? What's in it for me? So include that. How is this going to be beneficial to the individual or to the team overall? Because we're asking them to do some work here to change their behaviors. And in some cases, there's not an immediate impact for them that's positive. So maybe we better tie it to our patients. If we're making a change, it more than likely is going to impact our patients in some way. So even though I have to work a little bit more, if it's better for our patients, okay, you're more likely to get me to agree to that change. Is this going to reduce our mislabeled specimens? Is this going to reduce a turnaround time or our redraws? Something that's going to help us or our organization, but primarily our patients. So now that I know about it, the next thing is I have a choice to make. You know, I don't want to be the victim, and I'm not a victim. Yes, I didn't get to make the decision that came from on high, but now I've got a choice. Either I'm going to go along with it or I'm going to resist it. Where am I? And that's where we have the opportunity to influence people's desire, not our own. First of all, I've got to get on board with this. But if I have colleagues, if I'm the cheerleader that's saying, yeah, this is good, I can't wait for this change, but my colleagues aren't, or if I'm managing people and they're not on board, what can I do to influence them? Because we can't move forward if they're resisting and fully implement this process. So I want to share some strategies that you can use to influence someone's desire. So I'm going to use another story to demonstrate this. So let's say you've got a teenage driver and you want to make sure they wear their seatbelt. So it's not a one size fits all strategy. It might be that they're soft hearted like me. And so you're going to influence them by appealing to their heart. Sweetheart, we love you. We care about you. You're just a delightful person and we want you around until you're 102. Please wear your seatbelt because, you know, it could save your life. Okay, that might work for me. But let's say it doesn't work for one of your children. So you're going to go with the approach, hey, we have rules in this house. And the rule is you will wear your seatbelt. It's kind of like the buckle up because it's the law slogan. I'm appealing to their intellect, to their brain, to that sense of right and wrong. This is how we do it here. That might work. And then you might have some of those rascals that, you know, unless there's a consequence, I'm going to see what I can get away with. So I call that the hands-on approach and go with the consequences, click it or ticket kind of mantra. If you don't wear your seatbelt, you will lose your driving privileges for 30 days. So there's a consequence behind it. So influencing your teammates to change might depend on what's important to them. You may have to spend some one-on-one time and find out from their perspective, why don't you want to change? This sounds pretty exciting to me. Here's the benefits I see, but asking them what's getting in the way and how can I help you get there? Well, you know how I hate technology. I understand that. Can we help make some tools, a cheat sheet that'll help you? Can I offer you a coach to walk you through this until you feel comfortable? You know, how can we influence them to get on board, to support them, to get them ready for that change? So again, I want to take just a moment and ask you as a group, what's important for you when you first find out about a change? How do you want to be communicated with? Is it face-to-face? Is it a quick text? What's important? And also, what's going to influence you to change your behavior? Just be curious. See a few thoughts in the chat if you would. Somewhat face-to-face? How about some emails? So again, communication should probably be ongoing, including those whys, yes. And oftentimes, if you've got to give bad news, it's best to give it face-to-face so you can see that body language, see those reactions. Having a Q&A, some mechanism. Use your huddles. Yes, you can give quick updates. Here's my 60-second update, my elevator speech, and time for questions. Yes. Have as much information available as possible. Those are all great. And that ongoing communication, thank you. So now that I know what's changing and you've influenced my heart, and what do I need to do? So that knowledge and ability really go together. So I need to know what it is, but I also have to be able to perform it. And that takes some initiative. Again, it's extra work. And some of us that we're already feeling tired is like, oh, more, you're asking more of me. And it takes some perseverance. Maybe I was used to this order of draw and now for some reason it's changing, or the tubes that we're using are changing. It was so automatic to grab and go, and now I've got to think of this new acronym for my tubes. Oh, this is effort. I got it wrong again. How can we support one another to persevere? Let them know, I know this is hard. We can do it. I'm going to help you come up with a new mnemonic to help you remember the tube order and the colors of the tubes, whatever it is, so that we can persevere and get them ready for that change. Because if they can't do the new task, we can't implement it. And just having 2 or 3 ready, if you've got a team of 10, isn't enough. Learning's hard. Making sure that you're providing enough time so that people will be able to do this new task. So it's important that you've got well-written documents. Maybe you provide training in a variety of ways. Some people might want a short video. I might just want to see one, do one. Others might want a nice SOP or a flow chart. Some of us want a cute little cheat sheet that I can pop up on my cart and go, okay, there's my order of draw. Some of us might need a coach as we're working with this new electronic environment, but making sure there's plenty of time for not only the quick learners, but for those that might be struggling just a bit. And I include this slide as just kind of a quick reminder that ADKAR needs to happen beginning at the beginning with the awareness, and then it's the desire. If you've got some of us curmudgeons that have been sitting here, I ain't gonna change. You can't make me do it this new way. I don't like it. And you're halfway through your week of training, and I'm still going, I don't see why I have to do this. Maybe it is a little one-on-one time. Help me understand what's holding you back from getting here so that I can help you get there and that you can gain the skills that are necessary so that we can implement this new process. So again, give you a quick chance to share in the chat, if you would, what helps you training-wise to give you the skills and the ability to do this, a new process when there's a change. What's the most effective way for you? Somebody said hands-on. Yeah, Gabrielle, thank you. I just need to get my fingers in and do it. I need to practice. How about for others? Anybody like visual aids? I'm a big believer in having my little cheat sheet or something, either some words or some pictures to help me. Tip sheets, yeah. Pictures can be very helpful. Flow charts. Practice time, yeah. Job aids. So if you happen to be part of the team that's building that training plan, making sure that you have some, and asking maybe that person that's struggling, well, how would you put this something together that will help you? Even if there is a standard one, maybe that one's not making sense to them. Repetition, yes, thank you, Glenn. So practice, practice, practice with some help. until people are ready. So again, throwing in a variety of different ways because you've got different learning preferences, different learning abilities. So having them accessible at that moment when that learner needs them. Thank you all. So we've raised awareness. We've influenced our heart. Yes, I'll do it. I believe in this change. You've spent some time building the tools to give you the skills and the ability. And now we've implemented. What can we do to keep people from sneaking back to the old way or finding a workaround? Because that's really going to undo all the hard work that we've done. So one thing that we can do is have some reinforcements. And I think the most important one is to say thank you. So if you're a team member, telling your colleagues, thank you for all the hard work and effort that you put in to getting us to this new way of doing things. And it's also important to get some feedback from your team, maybe sending out a survey or informally. So what do you think of the new process? Does it need a little tweaking, or are there some things that we missed out on? Sharing some metrics to demonstrate to the team, hey, this really is better, is another great way to show, hey, this new process is working just like we thought it was going to. And maybe some audits for those of us that are going to try to get away with going back to the old way. Periodically checking in, making sure people are doing it the new way, that they don't have questions, that there isn't something that we missed. And the other important thing that we need to do is to communicate that there's going to be a dip in performance. So if we've changed our process and this was our previous turnaround time, it may actually increase for a short period of time because we're learning. It used to be automatic. Now I have to consciously think, pull out my tubes. Oh, got that wrong. Fix that. It takes a little extra time. So we have to allow our team, maybe it's 30 days before things get back onto a normal track until people are comfortable. So giving them that grace to make a couple of mistakes, to take that extra time. It's not about speed, it's about getting it right. Because remember, these are patient samples. So when it comes to reinforcements, do we celebrate and have a parade? Do we just say thank you? I'm curious for you as participants, what matters to you? What kind of reinforcements are important? Is it something fairly public? Do I want to put something in a newsletter? Hey, thanks, Deb, you did a great job. Or is it just a personal thank you? Or don't need one, it's my job. What are your thoughts? Mine says some acknowledgement. How about proof that it's working? Yes, that's where some of those metrics can help us. And Trey says, just as simple, but take the time to say thank you. Yes, thank you. And a private thank you, said Gwen. It doesn't have to be a big public woo-woo. Some of us, that's okay. On the other hand, yeah, I want the parade. I want the big public. Sure. So you may have to check in with folks and say, do you want something big, or is what would be important to you? So I think a combination, a handwritten note to say thank you. How much takes a little bit of effort if you've got a big team, but it can mean a lot if you took that time to jot down a personal note of what that individual did to contribute to the success of that change. Thank you for your thoughts. And just in closing, a final reminder about the importance of communication. Sometimes it feels like everything's changing, that we're just in this constant chaos. So it might be helpful to remind your staff, well, some things are staying the same. Your login is the same, even if many more things are changing at once. And to acknowledge what people might be losing. They're losing that comfort. Maybe some are losing a status of being the expert. Or we're losing the team that we work with. Maybe teams or work assignments are being shuffled. I'm sorry, you don't get to work with Danielle anymore. You're going to be working with someone else. But what are we gaining? Again, that eye on the patient. We're through this work, this effort for the sake of our patients. That in itself can be a strong motivator. And then what do we need to move forward? That bullet point is talking about as you're communicating about these changes and doing these periodic check-ins, hopefully it's during huddles, that you're asking 3 questions. So you're sharing, this is where we're at, asking the team what's right. Is this the right thing? Is this the right direction? Is this the right next step? Then asking them what's wrong. So we'll keep doing what's right. Is there something that's like, you're all going, oh no, that's a bad idea. Well, if there's something wrong, let's fix it before we're into full implementation. And then the third question I think is so important is what's missing? What didn't we think of? What are some of the possible scenarios? What ifs? So that we also address those during the change process. So again, we're in that transition. Let's work through all those what ifs, but no's, et ceteras, and no, this will never work. Well, why won't it work? Listening to those naysayers, they might have some insights that can help us. And finally, is to empower yourself, or if you're in a leader, empowering your employees to speak up and ask questions. Even though I may not like this change, it doesn't mean I can't question it and bring up my concerns so that they can get addressed and not just dismissed and shoved away. I have legitimate concerns. So let's take care of them so that we can move forward. I've included the references, including Jeffrey Hyatt's book, and I got some of the information for today's session from a very fun short little video. So I've included that also. So I'd like to close by saying thank you for joining me today. I hope you found this overview of the generations and of ADKAR as one model that you can consider for managing change, bringing about that awareness first, trying to influence the desire, giving them time to gain the skills. And if you're the learner, speaking up. If you're having some challenges, or if that visual aid isn't good enough, maybe make your own, or get a small team together to make something that's going to be more useful that everyone can use. And then finally, reinforcing, keeping people doing it the new way, or if they're not, finding out why so that you can overcome any obstacles so you can truly appreciate the value of that new change.
Thank you for participating. Please click the button below to complete the evaluation and obtain credit.